Good evening and welcome back to the Rory Talks Football channel, your daily Arsenal news, updates, debates and my opinions. If you're new to the channel, please do subscribe. We're like 2 away from 10,900, so we're basically on the road to 11,000 subscribers. And if you could like the stream, the video as well, I would be incredibly grateful. Let's get it out to more people. There's loads to talk about today. There's loads of you here. We're going to talk about that Man City news, that club. Just when you think they can't sink to new lows, they find a way. Lots of transfer stuff to talk about as well. Sesko, there's going to be a battle for him if we want him. Other news regarding another potential wing option, Victor Tsygankov, I think it's pronounced. Some Emil Smith Rowe stuff. There's actually loads to get into. So without further ado, Jack Sachs, Pekka, Jakob, Luki, Icarus, Yomi, Tom, Hyper, VV Vlad, K, Junior Films, Mia, Ethan Udall, Lukey, Cringe, Lee, Chums, Tentego, Devin, Leeds Gunner, Carter, James, and many, many more. It is good to see you all. Ross Lawman's in the building as well. Emil, I like your cut, G. Thank you very much. Fresh out of the barbers. Smithy's here as well. Ryan Henderson and Ethan Hill. It is good to see you all. And the Man City news. It's funny. It's quite sad, but it is funny. So if you're not aware of what is going on, effectively, Man City are now going on the front foot. Their 115 charges, the supposed trial for that is due to happen in November. They are now going on the attack. They are launching legal action against the Premier League, claiming that the APT rules, the Associated Party Transaction rules, are not fair, that they are not fair, and that Man City have been targeted and that they are being discriminated against. Poor Man City. And that everything that's being done against them is not in the interest of fairness and it doesn't promote fair competition. Because, of course, Man City have been massively held back to only winning 6 out of the last 7 titles. It really is not fair, the way that they've been treated. And, so basically the APT rules, they were actually tightened in 2021. When Newcastle got bought by Saudi Arabia, those rules got tightened, but only because everyone knew that Saudi Arabia would probably try and do exactly what Abu Dhabi did and what Sheikh Mansour did, or supposedly did, with Manchester City. And one of those big things, and one of the big ways that City were able to spend so much money, was through inflated sponsorship deals. So straight off the bat, effectively, Etihad sponsored Man City, sponsored their stadium, became their shirt sponsor, much the same as Fly Emirates is Arsenal's sponsor. The difference is, even back in 2008-9, when they got that sponsorship, the sponsorship deal that they got with Etihad was worth considerably more than the sponsorship deal that Arsenal got with Fly Emirates. Despite the fact that at that point, I mean, Arsenal's was done in 2006-7, I think, at that time. You know, you're talking about Arsenal, one of the biggest clubs in England, off the back of Invincibles, multiple Premier League titles, Champions League final, a new stadium, all of this. And somehow Man City, who at that point had done absolutely nothing and were genuinely just a small club in Manchester, were able to get a better, higher value sponsorship. And that's really where a lot of it began. And of course, Etihad is effectively owned by Abu Dhabi, who effectively own Man City. That's the gist of it, right? Anyway, long story short, in 2021, the rules were put in place, the Associated Party Transaction rules, which basically meant you couldn't get sponsorship details. I don't know why I keep trying to say details. You couldn't get sponsorship deals that were worth more than their fair market value. So the idea was you couldn't have Etihad throwing ridiculous money at Man City when Man City wasn't worth that, right? And Man City are basically saying that that is unfair, and they are suing effectively the Premier League for damages in relation to those rules. Now, those rules are literally there to promote fairness. Those rules are literally designed so that clubs can't fraudulently inflate their revenue and then spend that money on players, which is exactly what Man City did. And Man City have been accused of a whole lot more. They were accused. There was kind of a double whammy. Sheikh Mansour was accused of effectively using sponsorship deals to to make payments, and those deals themselves were inflated. There's all sorts going on, right? But the big thing here is Man City are taking it to the Premier League. Now, there's two ways of looking at it. One way of looking at it is that this is their backs against the wall. They know in November they were going to lose, and this is one final throw of the dice. This is lashing out because they know they're going down. The other way of looking at it is if Man City actually win this, they win this court case, that would be massively beneficial for them for the big one against the 115 charges. So it could go one of two ways. To me, it seems like they're lashing out. And I mean, some of the things that they say is it's laughable. One of the things they complain about, this is what they... So the Premier League clubs all voted for these rules, right? And you know how the Premier League vote works. 14, to get a majority, 14 of the 20 clubs all have to agree. So when this was signed off, when these APT rules were signed off, 14 of the 20 Premier League clubs agreed to it, right? At least. The Man City described that, okay, as the tyranny of the majority. They describe a democratic vote where 14 at least of the 20 clubs voted in favor of something. They describe that as a tyranny of the majority. So they are effectively offended by the concept of democracy. Democracy manifest. So that's quite unbelievable. They've also basically threatened, in as many words, they've threatened to pull their funding from their women's team, their youth setup, and community projects because they claim that they won't be able to afford them, right? And under the current rules, they say they wouldn't be able to afford to continue with community projects, the women's team, and the youth development. Maybe just don't pay 400 grand a week to Kevin De Bruyne. Maybe you could make some cutbacks. Effectively, they're like, well, if we can't sign every single best player in the world and have the highest wage bill in the country, then we're just going to scrap it. And that, by the way, is a tool. That is a tool that is used and is being used by Newcastle United in terms of what they do is they spend an awful lot of money in the local community, and then they use that effectively as a bargaining chip. And they go, let us get our own way, or we'll pull that money out of the community, and that'll make you look really bad. It's quite a nasty tactic to use, effectively. De Bruyne fancies himself to Saudi, by the way. I know. I made a video on that today. De Bruyne does want a Saudi move. He wants the money. Lots of you spamming 115 in the chat. You'll love to see it. City will win the case against the Prem. Sooner you accept that, the better. Okay, I'm sure, Amar, that you are a lawyer. I'm sure that you are well up to date on the case. And yeah, absolutely. But one thing that is interesting, and this is why it's being called a civil war, is that there are Premier League teams, reportedly between 10 and 12 Premier League teams, that will be involved in the trial, and they will be on the side of the Premier League, and they will go to trial against Man City. They will stand against Man City. So this is a civil war in the Premier League. And it's going to get very interesting. It's effectively going to be Newcastle and Man City against everybody else. It's going to be the state-backed clubs against the non-state-backed clubs, which is very interesting. But I'm still confused. If this is successful, nothing will happen to their 15 charge, 150 charge. No, it's not quite that extreme, right? But so even before 2021, they weren't called associated party transactions at that point, but there were still rules where your commercial deals had to be representative of fair value. And those rules are some of the rules that were allegedly broken by Man City. So of the 115 charges, some of those charges are for inflated sponsorships, right? Bear in mind, 4 of Man City's 10 biggest sponsorship deals, 4 of them have links to Abu Dhabi, right? So that's what we're talking about. It's a significant part of their, it's a significant part of their sponsorship revenue is all tied back to Abu Dhabi, which is, the state that backs them. So even before that, they were accused of breaking. The issue is if they win this trial, that effectively means they're winning the argument of those rules, the associated party transactions rules, are not fair. They're saying they should be able to have a sponsorship deal worth whatever the company wants to pay. Now, of course, that's not fair. Of course, that's not fair. Because the only clubs that would be able to do that are state-backed clubs. So it's not fair. But they're trying to argue that it's not fair and that they should be allowed to get that, which is effectively them admitting that that's what they've been doing, right? Why would you be there in the first place arguing that it's that they should be able to do it when their argument initially, their defense of the 115 charges is no, we've done it all above board. We didn't inflate any of our sponsorship deals. So we're saying, okay, so you've become the most successful club in Premier League history. You've won 6 out of 7 Premier Leagues. You've done the treble, claiming that you did it all above board. So how can you then turn around and say that those rules are going to stop you from being able to spend and that they're not fair? You can't have it both ways. So effectively, this is an admittance of, yes, okay, actually, we did break those rules. And come November, we'd probably be found guilty of breaking those rules. So now we're going to try and flip it and say, well, those rules weren't fair in the first place, which is basically what it is. So, yeah, a lot of it was failure to provide accurate details for player and manager payments. And again, but some of that is even tied into the sponsorship deals themselves, where managers and players were getting money from here, there, and everywhere. The Labour government will step in now, most likely, with a football regulator. Yeah, God knows what's going to happen with that. That's up in the air as well now. So they are suing based on the Premier League blocking a recent sponsorship deal. Yeah, because the sponsorship deal was massively inflated above what it was actually worth. Because actually, and this is the reality of it, it's a joke in the first place that Man City earn more sponsorship revenue than any other club when they quite clearly don't have a global fan base. They quite clearly do not have a fan base the size of United, Liverpool, Arsenal, Chelsea, even Spurs, to be quite honest. And yet they rack up these insane sponsorship deals. It doesn't make sense. So there we go. Did you see the tweet about our FFP resetting on the 31st of May? I did, yeah, actually. Remind me to talk. If I don't talk about that before later in the show, remind me again, because I do actually want to talk about that, but I've not written it down. I hope it's not Arsenal getting involved. We won't change the outcome. Just get out the shit show. Well, this is my thing, right? If Man City are so upset with the rules are so unfair, and all the other clubs are ganging up against us because they don't want us to succeed, leave. Go and make your own league. If you don't like the rules of this league, go make your own league. See how many teams follow you and see how many teams watch it. Fuck all, because no one's interested. But there you go. If we don't catch City now, then we won't be able to catch them again because they no longer need to cheat since brands will willingly throw money at them in this current state. That's the thing. They did all of their cheating years ago to get them to where they are now. Who's Arsenal's number 1 striker target? It looks like we're going for all out for Sesko. Yeah, well, apparently ours is Sesko. I'm going to talk about that in a second because that is interesting news. But anyway, that is effectively it for the Man City talk. We'll wait and see what happens. That trial is set to start next week. It's a 2-week trial, the new one, and it is set to start next week. So it's going to get tasty, baby. It is going to get tasty. To pull funding from the women's team and community projects is in of itself discrimination, which they're playing the victim. It's all just laughable. Yeah, the whole thing's laughable. The whole thing is laughable. They are a laughing stock. They're a laughing stock, but it's sad because they may well get away with it, you know? And that's the sad thing. But moving on to going on a school trip tomorrow, so I can't watch Norway and Ødegaard live. The streak of going to every game is going to get broken. It was on 2 years. I need a Rory miracle. Damn. I don't know. Is it a good school trip? I don't know. Do you prefer Diamande or Guehi if they're the same price? Personally, Guehi. If they're the same price, probably Guehi right now. Premier League proven. Good player. So, Chelsea, shock horror, are in for Benjamin Sesko. The Chelsea methodology of what are Arsenal doing? Let's copy it. Chelsea now have a concrete interest in Benjamin Sesko and are confident that they can beat Arsenal in the race if they push ahead in their plans to sign a striker this summer. That's coming from the Evening Standard. Ben Jacobs then followed it up, who is more reliable than... I mean, the journalist that wrote that story in the Evening Standard, he specializes in rugby, so take that with a pinch of salt. But Ben Jacobs did follow it up by saying Manchester United are expected to be in the conversation for Benjamin Sesko this summer. Arsenal, Chelsea, and PSG will also be in the race for Sesko if he decides to leave RB Leipzig. So yeah, Chelsea are now in the race, and I hope we're doing a bait and switch. I actually hope we're doing a bait and switch. I hope we've just been putting it out there. Oh yeah, we're really interested in Sesko. That Benjamin Sesko, we're really interested in him. We're probably going to go for him. Chelsea, you interested? We're probably going to go for that Benjamin Sesko. And then Chelsea come in, just like they did with Mudryk, and they just trigger the release clause, and he's gone. And then we have a free run at Osman, which was the plan all along. Who knows? Who knows? But it would be quite amusing. But look, if they get Sesko, you know, it is what it is. I don't really see how that suits their project anyway. Like it makes far more sense for him to join Arsenal, where there wouldn't be the pressure for him to be, you know, scoring goals straight off the bat, starting games because of Havertz. But it is interesting. Worried there's not many links to Gyökeres. Sesko Osman links have been louder. Yeah, I agree. The Gyökeres links have kind of died down. Although, in fairness, the Gyökeres links to everyone have kind of died down. I don't know if that's related to his injury, maybe, but I haven't really heard much about it across the board. So it'll be an interesting one to keep an eye on. But one thing, in fact, I'll talk about the May 31st thing now, which is quite interesting. Now, so this came from a Twitter account called Ollie Informer, and I don't know exactly who Ollie's sources are inside the club, but I do know that throughout most of this season, he always leaked the team news first. He was always the first person to leak team news. So he has some sort of source in the club somewhere. And he said today that, and in fact, I'm actually just going to bring it up word for word because I don't want to get it wrong. 2 seconds. But he said today, and this is important, I want to make it very clear as there is a lot of misinformation on this. Our FFP monitoring period is not up until the end of June / July 1st. It's 3 consecutive financial years, which runs up to May 31st. Therefore, any new signings will be registered in 24-25 as we are now past May 31st. This means it won't be in our 23-24 accounts, as some people are saying. Most clubs' accounts run up until June 30th. We are unique in the fact that ours run up until May 31st. So what does everything that I've just said mean? You know how I've been saying, and I've been part of that misinformation because I just assumed that we were the same as every other club. I've been saying all of those release clauses that end on like the 30th of June, we can't trigger them because our FFP doesn't reset until the 1st of July. The FFP, it runs in blocks of 3 years, and the most recent 3 years, I assumed for everyone, ends on the 30th of June. Therefore, from the 1st of July, you can then buy new players because you're into the next year, effectively. And so if you couldn't afford to buy players in January, you certainly wouldn't be able to until the 1st of July. According to Ollie, we are the only club where, and for whatever reason, I don't know if he's actually answered the question, but for whatever reason, ours runs until May 31st. And we've passed May 31st now, meaning for us, it's reset. We're into the next year. If that is true, and I don't know 100% that it is true, but if that is true, for the next month, for the month of June, we have a massive advantage over everyone else because we can now spend again. We're in, effectively, our summer window has now opened. We can spend. And so if it does come down to, a release clause, a Sesko release clause, well, we could trigger that before Chelsea can, because if Chelsea can't do it until June 30th or July 1st, then we've got a head start. Now, if that is true, I don't know why it would be true for starters. I don't know why ours would run from May 31st and everyone else would be a month later. And I've not heard anyone else say it. And I'd have assumed that there would be some people that would know that. But if it is true, then it makes the next month very, very interesting. Because if it is true, we have the tactical advantage. Surely that can't be true. It feels like something Man City would do. Yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. It does feel like we wouldn't be the only people that had figured that out if it was true. 320 viewers and only 75 likes. What the fuck? Come on, please click the like button. There's over 300 of you here. Let's just hit 100 likes. You know what to do. Pause. Don't even pause. I'm waffling now. I am not saying anything useful for the next 10 seconds whilst I ask you to go and click the like button. Those of you that are watching live, you are the heroes that click the like button and get me over 100. So please do click the like button. But yeah, look, that's an interesting one to keep an eye on. Again, it'll be interesting to see if someone, look, I'm not discrediting Ollie, but if Ornstein or something comes out and says it, then that's, a better source to go by, just because he wouldn't say it if it wasn't true. But it's an interesting one. Where do you stand on the rumour that Arsenal's interest in Bruno G won't go too far? Yeah, well, you bring me on. You bring me on to it perfectly. This came from Gunnerblog today. As with it was a Gunnerblog article in The Athletic. As with Alexander Isak, Arsenal's admiration for Bruno Guimaraes is not expected to go further. The player has a 100 million release clause that is active until the end of June, and Newcastle are likely to demand a sum in that region after that point. So even once Bruno G's release clause of 100 million is up, and that release clause is active until the 30th of June, even after that, they are likely to demand 100 million for him. And Arsenal apparently do not see that as being worthwhile. Fair enough. If we don't want to spend 100 million on him and he's going to go for 100 million, what can you do? I'd only be annoyed by that if we refuse to spend 100 million on him and then Man City get him for like 80 million. That would annoy me if that happened. But we'll see. People have been reporting our first of the 624 reset for a while. Interesting. I've not seen it. If there are more, let me know. If there are, at least NBC Sports did. Interesting. Maybe it's just jumped to 136 likes. You'll have to see it. Thank you very much. You are all goats. Interesting. Maybe so. Apparently, they've been reporting it in the US. Interesting. Maybe in that case, that gives it a lot more credibility. That does give it a lot more credibility. I hope we use that. To our advantage. I really do. But yeah, on Bruno G, fair enough. If he's not worth 100 million to us, he's not worth 100 million to us. There's not a lot you can do about it. Gunnerblog also said a new number 8 remains on Arsenal's radar, but the club feel there are relatively few suitable options on the market. The acquisition of a number 9, Sesko, could allow Kai Havertz to play more games in midfield, while Ethan Nwaneri is also expected to get more minutes next season. What do you think about that? The acquisition of a new number 9 could allow Kai Havertz to play more games in midfield. What do you think? I wouldn't be happy. If we end this window without going out and buying an elite midfielder, and we buy a Sesko or whoever else and go back to relying on Kai Havertz in midfield, I won't be happy. Now, before you start shooting me or the messenger, this is coming from Gunnerblog, and I'll be honest, I think Gunnerblog's pieces in The Athletic are no different to his normal opinion pieces. He just adds a few things in that makes it sound like he's talking to people at the club. That's my honest opinion. I really like him. I like his content, but I do feel like sometimes when it comes to his articles in The Athletic, he says things like, the feeling at Arsenal is this, or it's believed people at Arsenal think this. And I'm not actually sure how much of that is genuinely coming out of the club and how much of that is kind of Gunnerblog's opinion. But then to be written in an article in The Athletic, it has to kind of tie into the club. I'm not entirely sure. So it may well be that we're not looking at Kai Havertz being a midfielder next season. And I certainly hope we're not. I certainly hope we're not. Almost had a heart attack right there. We literally lost the league because we kept playing Havertz at left centre mid. Yeah, I think the big one to look back at, is the Villa game. The only time really in the run-in that we moved Havertz back into the midfield was the game that we lost. Like, that is the reality of it. But Bermuda Guna with the $2 super chat, thank you very, very much, just says absolutely not, full caps. Having none of it. Bermuda Guna is not having any of it. There you go. The Cannon podcast did a good video about how Sesko and Havertz could play together, if anyone wants to watch it. Yeah, I was reading an article about that, about how Havertz and Sesko could work together. But this is the thing. If Havertz and Sesko were going to work together, it wouldn't be with Havertz playing as an 8. That's the thing. It wouldn't be Havertz as an 8. That's not them playing together. It would be more of a double act up top, which we could see more of, and maybe that would work. But I think it would still only work in games where we had complete control of the midfield. It could only work against teams that have a weak midfield, basically. Either way, we have to go out and get an elite midfielder. Like, there is just no question about it. We have to go out and get an elite midfielder. Simple as that. What's the Civil War in the title? I've just joined. It's probably best to go back and watch from the start because there's quite a lot of information. It's to do with Man City launching legal action against the Premier League, but we spoke about it for about 15 minutes. It's probably easier to just go back and watch that bit from the start. Would rather Kai at left back than left 8. Yeah, I mean, it's just a weird one. It's a weird one. I feel like we all saw it. We all witnessed Kai in midfield. He wasn't bad, but he was far better up top. And I don't think Kai Havertz is good enough at 8 for us to win the league with him playing there consistently. Another thing from The Athletic, Arsenal remain very interested in Martin Zubimendi, with Mikel Arteta a keen admirer. The difficulty may be persuading local lad Zubimendi to leave the Basque region. Although he has a release clause worth around 50 million, he has expressed no desire to move. So, again, we've heard that before, but it's coming from The Athletic now. Zubimendi loves the Basque region and he doesn't want to leave. You know, you can't say fairer than that. Kai Havertz at 8 isn't that bad. He just makes Ødegaard so much worse. Well, yeah. Yeah, individually, I don't think Kai Havertz is bad at 8. I just don't think the midfield works. The midfield 3 of Rice, Ødegaard, Havertz doesn't work unless it's against a really weak midfield that Declan Rice can pretty much manage by himself, and Havertz can spend most of the game almost as a second striker. But against any team with a strong midfield, it just doesn't work. It just doesn't work. You need a proper 8. You need a proper 8. It's as simple as that. It also makes Martinelli worse. I agree. Fabrizio Romano today. This is on João Neves, one of our midfield. Well, I say midfield target. He's one of my midfield targets. Benfica will not negotiate for João Neves this summer. There is a 120 million euro release clause, and it's that or nothing. There will be no negotiations. You trigger the release clause or you move on. That is what Benfica are saying. Arsenal are one of the teams that have scouted him for months. So that's coming from Fabrizio. Again, I don't see us triggering a 120 million euro release clause for him. I think he's a brilliant player. I think he would do really well at Arsenal, but he is still incredibly young. It's Enzo Fernandez. It's an Enzo Fernandez. That's ultimately what that is. It's paying 105 million for Enzo Fernandez. He's not done enough for long enough in a good enough league to warrant triggering a full release clause of 120 million euros. What a midfield today for Portugal, by the way. The team. Let's have a very quick look at what Portugal's midfield is saying, because I'm actually quite keen on Portugal for the Euros. Yeah, this is one that is nice. I mean, this team, this is an underdog team. This is an underdog, and they're not underdogs because they're actually relatively well touted. But I mean, I think Diogo Costa is better than Sarr, so I don't know why Sarr's in goal. But Diogo Costa, Cancelo, Diaz, Silva, Mendes, Neves, Palhinha, Vitinha, Conceição, who's actually, if you remember the Sporting game, is a decent little winger, Jota and Leao. And then even down on the bench, you've got the likes of Inacio, Dallo as defenders, Bruno Fernandes, Mateus Nunes, Bernardo Silva, Gonzalo Ramos, João Felix, Pedro Neto. Like, that's nowhere near their strongest team. And yet that is still a strong team. They're not underdogs because I think they're well talented, but I can see them doing something. I can see them doing something at the Euros. I really can. Ronaldo's not even in there. Exactly. Ronaldo's not even in there. Who are we going for then? All of the 3 CDM options isn't available or too expensive. Well, that's a very good question. That is a very good question. Who are we going for in the midfield? And the answer is I don't know. A couple of other bits of news. Graham Bailey today, not a brilliant source, but he says Emil Smith Rowe has been informed by Arsenal the club will not stand in his way if he wants to move on this summer, but they want more than 30 million for the player. Brentford, Brighton, Crystal Palace, and Wolves are among the clubs looking into a potential deal. So lots of clubs looking at Smith Rowe. Arsenal saying, we won't stop you going, but we want more than 30 million. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. I think if we get more than 30 million for Smith Rowe, it's not too bad business. It's not too bad business. Get me Fofana? Yes, but not as the number one. Fofana for me comes in if we get 2 midfielders. If the only midfielder we buy this summer is Yusuf Fofana, I don't think the midfield is upgraded on the assumption that he basically replaces Thomas Partey. He may stay fitter than Thomas Partey, but I don't think he's a better player. For me, I would like, if you're going to get a Fofana, you sell Thomas Partey, and the midfield next season for the kind of 6-8 is Rice, Jorginho, Fofana, and an elite player that is ready to start the season. That would be the 4. And I don't think Onana is that guy either. Onana, for me, is in the same boat as Fofana. Whether it's Onana or Fofana, they are down the pecking order. It's not good enough, in my opinion. Another bit of news. This is coming out of Spain, an outlet called Diario. Arsenal and Milan have already approached Girona winger Victor Tsygankov. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Tsygankov? Do you pronounce the T, or is it just Tsygankov? Anyway, we'll call him Victor because we need another Victor to talk about. But yeah, Arsenal and Milan have already approached Girona winger Victor Tsygankov's entourage. Mikel Arteta is in love with the player, who has a 30 million euro release clause, and he believes that he could fit perfectly into this Arsenal team. So, of course, what we will do is we will go and have a little gander at Victor Tsygankov, because I don't think we've ever actually looked at him on here. So this is the guy. 26 years old, turns 27 in November. Predominantly plays right wing, can play centrally when needed. Obviously, Girona had a fantastic season this season. This is not necessarily my cup of tea, which is interesting, but we will have a look. We will have a look at the rest of his stats. So these were his stats for the season. A decent goal scorer off the wing. That's not too bad. Although, again, I don't know how much of that was played through the middle. His assists and expected assists is actually decent. Pass accuracy, 83%. Yeah, no, that's average. That's average. The number of touches he takes, 54 a game. Again, that's quite average. Successful dribbles is really quite low, actually. Touches in the opposition box isn't too bad. I mean, that's really not good either. That's really bad. If you compare that to what our wingers do, if you compare that to like Saka, that's boo. I mean, overall, I'm not blown away by those stats anyway. Again, haven't watched enough of him play, right? Would have to watch more of him play. But yeah. I mean, there's probably a reason that realistically, there's a reason that he's got a release clause of 30 million euros, right? That's what, 24 million quid? 23 million quid? Yeah. I mean, you compare that to Johan Bakayoko, and I know there is more to football than stats, and you have to watch the games, and he's not a pure right winger, as Francisco Oliveira just said. But you compare that to Johan Bakayoko. He's played counter-attacking football. Been watching him for years. He's more of a left forward. Interesting. More of a left forward. I don't think we'd go for a left-footed left forward, though. He is a left-footed right winger, yeah. But I don't know. Right forward. They bought him for 7 million. He's better than Bakayoko at this moment. Interesting. Look, I've not seen enough of him. But, you know, based on the quick stats that I tend to look at, he's not. He's way better than Bakayoko. Come on. Maybe so. Look, I'm not going to say you're wrong. Like I said, I've not seen enough of him to make that judgment. So I will not disagree with you. $5.99 super chat from John. John, thank you very, very much. If you went through the full squad, what players would you sell in an ideal world? Is there anywhere I wonder if I can see let me see if I can see the entire squad on FOTMob. If I try and bring it up, can I see the full squad on it? I can. Okay, so Okonkwo has gone. Karl Hein, they came out today actually. Karl Hein, we are looking to try and keep him quite desperately at this point. We're really trying to get him to stay just because of the lack of goalkeeper depth that we'll have. If Ramsdale and Okonkwo are gone, Karl Hein is the only person we've got left. So Ramsdale I would sell. Karl Hein I would keep. Okonkwo's gone. Cedric's gone. Zinchenko I'd sell. I would then sell one of Tomiyasu and Jakub Kiwior. I don't mind which. I think it's probably going to be Kiwior. Midfielders, El Neni's gone. I'd sell Partey. I'd sell Lukonga. I'd sell one of Smith Rowe and Fabio Vieira. Looking more likely to be Emil Smith Rowe because you'll get a lot more money for him and it will count as pure profit. I think if we sold Fabio Vieira right now, we'd make a loss on him. And then the forwards, I would sell Eddie Nketiah. I would sell Reece Nelson. And then outside of that, I don't think it's factored in some of the loan players that we've brought back. Kieran Tierney would get sold. Charlie Patino would get sold. Nuno Tavares would get sold. And I think that's about it. There's a lot of players that can get sold. But thank you very, very much, John, again, for the $5.99 super chat. I really do appreciate that a lot. Just woke up from a nap. What have I missed? Most of the show, Wilsey. Most of the show. To be fair. What about squad depth? Have you seen next year's calendar? I think we've got plenty of squad depth. If I go back onto that and you look at the squad depth, David Raya, Karl Hein, and another goalkeeper, which I expect us to buy. In my opinion, you need 6 defenders and an academy defender, probably. So you've got White, Gabriel, Saliba, Timber, one of Kiwior and Tomiyasu, and then a new signing. And I think we're going to go out and sign a defender. So that covers the back 4 and 2 defenders on the bench, which is what we normally play. If one of those defenders gets injured, you bring an academy player onto the bench. Or we go out and buy a sort of wing back, which I think would get added to that. Midfielders, we've got Jorginho, Rice. I then think we bring in 2 midfielders. So Fofana and another midfielder, or however you look at it. You've then got as the attacking midfielders, Ødegaard, Fabio Vieira, Ethan Nwaneri is coming through and has been told that he's going to get more minutes. Obviously, Kai Havertz really is an attacking player at this point, but he can play in the midfield. You've then got Trossard, Martinelli as your 2 left-sided options. Saka, and hopefully a new signing as your 2 right-wing options. You've then got Jesus and Havertz and a new number 9 as your centre-forward options. So I think that's fine. I think that's enough depth. If you look at it, right, the way to go is effectively Man City. The way to go is Man City. You have roundabout 19 senior players that are all good enough to start. That's how you do it. You have 19 senior players that are all good enough to start. Everyone else should be an academy player, pretty much. That's how you keep a lean squad You keep on top of the wage bill. You can't afford to have 23 senior squad players that are all good enough to play. Realistically, the amount of senior squad players that we've got in this group is pointless. The amount, Eddie, Reese, El Neni, these were all pointless. Cedric, these were pointless players this season, but they were on senior player wages, which is a waste. Aston Villa holding talks for Gallagher from Chelsea. I wouldn't mind having. I didn't write it down. But that came out today, by the way. Let me try and find it on Twitter. That has reminded me, because this is absolute madness. Absolute madness. Supposedly, Douglas Luiz. So when Arsenal, or supposedly Gunnerblog, is saying that Arsenal think that the market for midfielders this summer isn't good, according to Gazzetta Italia, okay, not a brilliant source, but still, Douglas Luiz has reached an agreement with Juventus. Douglas Luiz, who we've been through his stats on here before, and they are remarkable. And in fact, I'll give you a little quick reminder of Douglas Luiz's stats. And again, it's not just about stats. I think Douglas Luiz has been a very, very good midfielder for Aston Villa this season. A key part of them finishing where they did in the league. Exceptionally good player. As an all-rounded midfielder, can play 6 or 8. Very, very good. Very good pass accuracy. Very comfortable on the ball. Has an attacking output. I know a lot of that comes from penalties. Defensively, very solid. You can't sit back and say that there's not a midfielder market and then let Douglas Luiz go to Juventus. The Italian club now must negotiate with Aston Villa. Now, that might be the stumbling block for them. But what are we doing? What are we doing? Now, again, that has come from an Italian outlet. Take it with a pinch of salt. But that's crazy. It's crazy. Let me just quickly pull up this Gallagher to Villa, because that ties into it, no doubt. If Gallagher's they've just got Barkley. If they're going for Conor Gallagher as well, that would suggest to me. Here we go. Breaking. Aston Villa have held preliminary talks with Chelsea over a move for Conor Gallagher. Villa are also in contact with Gallagher's camp. Unai Emery is a huge admirer of the player and has emerged as a top target for Unai Emery. And that is a David Ornstein bomber coming out. So there you go. Interesting. Apparently, Chelsea retain interest in John Duran going the other way as a potential candidate for the number 9 role. So maybe they do something there. But that is interesting. And of course, that'll be raw profit for Chelsea if they do sell him as well. So they want Coop minus Juve, so it doesn't make sense. Maybe they want both. I did also see apparently they could send Weston McKennie the other way. So if they did want a deal for Douglas Luiz, they could send Weston McKennie the other way. But yeah, I find that crazy. Juventus can afford Coop Miners and Douglas Luiz because they're selling Soulé and McKennie. Apparently, who was interested in Soulé? Palace. I've spoken before on here about Matthias Soulé, potential right-wing option, more of a right-forward option as a backup to Bukayo Saka. Apparently, Crystal Palace are interested in him. Now, if you look at Palace's recruitment of late, if you look at Elise, Eze, Wharton, that could be an interesting one. The fact that Palace are interested in him makes me a little bit more interested as well. I think Dougie Freeman's been doing an unbelievable job at Palace. So, yeah, interesting. But look, there's a lot going on. It's beginning to heat up a bit. It is beginning to heat up a bit, the transfer window. I mean, the transfer window's not even open. We're still 10 days away from the transfer window opening. But there are things beginning to heat up a bit, which is exciting. It is exciting. Anyway, it is time for Guess the Gooner, the game where I give you not 5 clues, because today we're switching it up again. We're going back to the one. I am going to tell you every club that this player has played for. He's an ex or current Arsenal player. I'm going to tell you every club that he's played for, starting at the one he made the least appearances for, moving up to the one that he made the most appearances for, and you have to guess who that player is. We're starting now. I'll also tell you how many appearances they made. So, Here we go. This player made 11 appearances for Niki Vulu. They made 11 appearances for Niki Volu. They made 16 appearances for Real Betis. They made 16 appearances for Real Betis. They made 58 appearances for AEK Athens. 58 appearances for AEK Athens. 59 appearances for Genoa. 59 appearances for Genoa. 61 appearances for Werder Bremen. 61 appearances for Werder Bremen. 69 appearances for Arsenal. 69 appearances for Arsenal. 94 appearances for Olympiacos. 94 appearances for Olympiacos. And 198 appearances for Borussia Dortmund. 198 appearances for Borussia Dortmund. Lots of you have got it in the chat, but who got it first? Who got it first? Make sure someone in the chat is VAR checking me, because you know how it goes. But we will see. We will see who got it first. And, well, the first person to get it was Ethan C. It was Socrates. Ethan, you'll have to let us know. I think you guessed that without even getting the first club. You said that about 7 messages after I put starting now. I'm not even sure you'd heard the first club by the time you typed that. But you were indeed first. So congratulations. Congratulations. You were definitely first, because I can see the starting now message above it. Keenan was second. Congratulations, Keenan. And kind of unlucky, because you might have been the first person that actually guessed it with the clues. Third was Devin. Fourth was Sportcat. And fifth was Wilmar. Wilmar was fifth. But there you go. Ethan C. Congratulations. Congratulations, Ethan C. He got it after the starting now. Not a guess. Not a guess. Wait, so was it a guess or not a guess? Anyway. VAR, check complete, goal given to Ethan C. There you go. It seems like wherever Pep goes, there's almost a scandal. Yeah, it's almost like Pep is someone that's absolutely comfortable with cheating. Almost like that. Almost like that. There was such a big gap between 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, there was huge gaps between 1, 2, and 3. Someone wants me to pull up Veerman. Someone wants me to pull up. Who wants me to put? Keenan wants me to pull up Veerman. Do you know what, Keenan? Because you came second, I'll pull up Veerman. Joey Henkel Max. Joey Henkel Max. Pep's a fraud. Which one, Keenan? Joey? Joey. Joey Veerman, 25 years old. Central midfielder. Wah wah wee wah. Wah wah wee wah. Market value of 15 million euros. He's at a prime age. Can play as an 8 or a 6. Wah wah wee wah. 28 starts this season. 5 goals, 16 assists from midfield. I mean, must play as more of a. It must be more attacking than that, really. Excellent goal output for a midfielder, which is good. 84% pass accuracy. It's the low end of the elite for a midfielder, for a central midfielder. His chance creation is through the roof, though. Chances created per 90, nearly 5 chances created. That's exceptionally good. High touches, really high touches. Successful dribbler, decent dribbler of the ball for a central midfielder. Gets forward a lot. Recoveries, possession 1 in the final third. Very, very nice. I like this. Not bad with aerial duels. Tackle percent 1, that's decent. Defensively, difficult to get past him. Nice. Nice. Interesting. Interesting. The thing is, because PSV just absolutely flew this season. Like, they got 91 points this season. They only lost 1 game. Lots of their players are green, very green. But there you go. Interesting. Maybe keep an eye on them. I mean, has anyone been linked to him? Has anyone been linked to Veerman? I don't know. These graphs make Doku look like the best player in the world, by the way. Take them with a grain of salt. Nah, because there are still things with Doku that you can look at that don't make him look. There are still things with Doku that can make him look like not the best in the world, right? Now, this looks good for him. But when you do actually come down and dig into the stats, that's terrible for starters. But this is good. So what does this show you? The fact that these two are green and these are really red. This shows you his shot conversion is terrible, right? He's taking over 3 shots a game, and he's expected to score 0.14 goals a game. So that's poor. This is decent. Pass accuracy is up there. He is a good passer of the ball. It's only really his end product that's poor, which is, you can see that here with the successful crosses and cross accuracy. This is decent. This is decent. I mean, obviously he plays for Man City, so he takes an awful lot of touches. And those ones are skewed to playing in a good team. And then you come down here, recoveries isn't great. That's not enough defensive work. And the rest of it is solid. But, I mean, ultimately, you are still talking. I feel like Jeremy Doku's perhaps underrated anyway. Jeremy Doku, I would say, currently starts for Man City ahead of Jack Grealish. So we're not talking about a bad player here. Jeremy Doku is a very good player. I think his end product needs work, and those two are massively highlighted in those stats. His cross accuracy and his shot conversion rate are both poor. But that's really his only significant weakness. That and maybe his ability to track back too much. But yeah. We will do Guess the Non-Gooner. We'll do it now. It is time for Guess the Non-Gooner. I will give you the entire career path of a player who does not and has not played for Arsenal. And you have to guess who that player is in the chat. First person to get it right wins the immense pride and respect of the Rory Talks football community, but not as much respect as Ethan C. currently has. This player started their career at Lyon. They went on loan to Lens. They then moved permanently to Nice. They then moved permanently to Marseille. They then moved permanently to QPR. Whilst at QPR, they went on loan to Newcastle United. They then moved permanently to Chelsea. Whilst at Chelsea, they went on loan to Crystal Palace. They then went from Chelsea to Las Palmas. From Las Palmas to Getafe on loan. They then went to Lille permanently. They then went to Rizespor. They then went to Demirspor. They then went to Stade Brestois. There you go. A long old career. But who was first? Some of you going for Adel Taarabt. No. Who was first? He's done it again. It's the GOAT. It's the GOAT of Guess the Non-Gooner. It's Sportcat again. It's like Remy, and Sportcat has done it. The ball knowledge is off the scale. Second, I think, was George. He put Rent. I think he meant Remy. I'm going to give it to him. George Christodoulou was third. was fourth. And Ryan Henderson was fifth. But there you go. I mean, look, you've got to give it to him. Sportcat is just unbelievable. He really is. You picked a Chelsea player, gave me a bit of an advantage. That is true. I did forget he played for Chelsea. Veerman, send it out to the universe. We need that guy. Maybe we can go and do a little double dip for Bakayoko and Veerman. I would take it. I have the solution. Veerman at 6, Rice at 8, and then go all out for Theo Hernandez as left back. Think about the dynamics. I like Hernandez as an option at left back. Yeah, I do like Hernandez as an option at left back. I mean, he cost a lot of money, and I don't think he's for sale. Is he for sale? I'm not actually sure. But yeah, I like it. To be honest, I can't even picture Veerman playing, if I was to be completely honest with you. So his stats look good. I would certainly need to see a lot more. Come on, let's get to 200 likes. If we're close to 200 likes, why not? Be nice to hit it, wouldn't it? Be nice to hit 200 likes on the stream if we can hit it. But no worries if not, to be honest. Thoughts on Hakan Çalhanoğlu as an 8? Not a fan. Not a fan. Do you like Martinez as a fullback? I could see Martinez being an inverted left back. Yeah, I mean, we went for him before we went for Zinchenko. I think the aim there was to bring him in as an inverted fullback, but I think that's what he's more suited to as well than playing at centre back. I really do. There you go. Look, that is going to be the end of the stream. I massively appreciate all of you that have joined. As always, I'll be live on Twitch later on. Link is down in the description to the Twitch channel. I will also be live tomorrow night. Tomorrow night, I'm busy tomorrow with something incredibly cool. I should still make it back in time to go live as normal. I will let you know if I don't. It might be a slightly later than normal. Hopefully, it'll just be all on time. But yeah, I hope you have a fantastic evening. I hope you have a fantastic day tomorrow. And I will catch you all either later tonight or tomorrow. Goodbye.